Hey gang, John here once again. Hot rods in the woods, working on an old Model A pick-em-up truck. So I'll start this video by saying sometimes you get into things and it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So when you do that, sometimes you have to break out the big guns. Now this is not an acetylene torch, this is actually propane. Yes, your regulator works exactly the same. Yes, you said it about the same. It's a little bit different to get lit. There's no black smoke, blah, blah, blah. But it does get hot. And it gets hot enough to cut the steel we're cutting. The reason I wasn't using the plasma cutter is because this is pretty rough cutting. And what I'm trying to do is get inside a little bit. And I haven't had a lot of practice with the plasma cutter. So, we're doing her this way. So I removed that big old hunk of bracket with the torch. I can dress it up with the torch some more once I get the car up in the air. Also the same with this one. And I removed the brackets here, which are all boogered up, and there was holes underneath it now, so I'm replating all of that. That's where the brake pedal used to go. I cut the top and then smacked it with a hammer, and the rest of the welds fell out. So that being said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and redress this entire side all the way back to the cross member for the rear end. I'm going to replate all of that so it's correct. The front is good. I've got to do something with this hole. I haven't decided what to do. Here's my dilemma. There needs to be a hole there if I'm going to bolt the motor mount to the top of the frame. Or I could put a little piece of tubing in there and run the nut to the bottom. The factory obviously didn't have it boxed, so because of that they just put it anywhere they're darn well pleased, and it's easy to get to there. I've got to have those slots, and what I may do is just box it and cut a small notch in the top just so I can get a nut in there instead of having the whole thing. I mean, that's the weakest point of the whole thing. If it's going to kink, it would kink there. Now if you notice here, this is what happens when you don't have proper structure. When they cut this out, I'm going to try and get this camera flipped around for you. It's cracked all the way through. So we've got to deal with that. Oh, there it is, sorry. So I'm going to have to weld that up. But that obviously is a weakness in the frame, right where they put the hole to put the bolt in for the body. So we got to deal with that. Once again, it's just metal, it's easy to fix. Going back farther, I'm going to have to seam where the cross member for the rear end goes. So what I'm going to do there though is I'm going to shorten this pipe, cross member, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to double plate right there. So I'll put a plate to box the frame, and then I will go ahead and put another steel plate on the outside to attach the cross member to. So that's the plan for that. Moving back farther, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my X dimension proper. I'm going to jack this up, the cross member up. Remember, it's laying on the rear end, so it has no suspension at this point. I'm going to jack it up. I'm going to cut the frame rail, go back farther with it, box it behind the rear end, just barely, so that I can put my coilovers in. I may just go right over the top. The problem with these is, especially this one, notice that they put a box in the bottom of the bed where the wood is, just so that this lump cleared it. I'm not a fan of that. The whole back end chassis needs to come up 4 inches anyway, so I could almost go straight, but then there's not quite enough suspension. So I haven't figured out what I'm going to do there yet either. I could go with the notch up, like on the more modern stuff, but if I do that, then the bed doesn't fit. So there's a few things that have to be dealt with that we're just stuck with because it is a Model A. I may just not extend this back end, just go straight up with it and reset the coils. by removing the leaf spring and the brackets here, I may be able to just cut the top down an inch or so, box it, which would give me plenty of structure and be fine. So we'll have to figure that out afterwards. But the first thing is get this stuff done up here, and then I'm going to tackle the front suspension first. I want to set the engine and transmission in, but we've had a minor setback there also. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but upon removing the intake manifold, yeah, not good. All of the intakes, it's had water down the carburetor somehow. The inside of the motor is rusty to the point where I just don't trust it. Now I do have another 4.3 over at a friend's house that I'll be getting this weekend, that I'll have to make a determination which way to go. I do have a little 350 set up to be a stroker. Worst case scenario, that can happen. I have a brand new Scout crank, set of dished pistons, and I could go with that. I just need a set of heads because the heads I have for it are monstrous, and we just really don't need them. But it's all to play it by ear now. We'll see what pops up and go from there. In the meantime, neighbors' complaints in the barn. I have acquired the 383 for the 1967 Dodge Dart that we're going to put together here in the shop probably after Christmas, but when you find a deal you can't pass it up. This is a 440 out of a motorhome. It's a 440-4, which I can't find a lot of information on. Some of these beasts actually came with 6-pack rods and a steel crank. I haven't gotten into that yet, so I don't know. All I know is that this one is actually pretty darn clean. I don't find any rust, fingers crossed. So we picked that up. I picked up a 727 transmission for it. It's just a core, I believe. We'll figure that out. I have rebuilt hundreds of these, so I'll get my antique transmission tools out and have a go at it, pull it apart, see what it needs. If it's buildable, we'll order a kit. If not, it goes in the scrap pile. Neighbor's complaint has a little bit of an engine miss. I think I popped a power valve. My bad. I started it up, forgot to turn the fuel pump on, made it, 300 feet. It backfired. Since then, it's been Richard McCobb. So I've got a set of power valves on order for it. I'm dropping them down from 6.5 to 4.5s because the cam in this, although it does produce fairly good vacuum, with the two carburetors, when you open both the throttle plates, the vacuum drops very rapidly. And because of the two 6.5s, I think it's just a hair rich and it just barely tipping the throttle. So drivability wise, it seems fine, but it is rich. So we'll do that. I do have a small fuel tank at the fuel cell, which I have to remake a line. No big deal there. And then hopefully this Friday night, there's a cruise in Savannah, Tennessee, that hopefully we'll make it to. So that's all for now. This is just a short one, just to let you know what's going on. You don't need to see me use a torch. It's pretty scary. And once I get that done, I'll start picking up. I've got another piece of sheet metal I've got to go get because the metal I've got for this frame is a little bit too thick. There's no sense going that thick. So I got to pick up another piece of metal and start boxing the frame. Fun stuff. Bye for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. I can use it. I'm up to 366 or 367, which is very cool. Can use all the help I can get. I'm not in it for the money. Well, of course I'm in it for the money. Come on, let's not be ridiculous here. I get paid for doing this stuff. I don't get paid by YouTube or anybody, but this is actually a customer's truck. So there you have it. like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your day. If you're in the southeast, be safe. You got Helene or Helen coming at you, whatever the name of this newest storm is. Hope everybody stays safe and all their stuff doesn't get destroyed. Take care. Bye-bye. Once again, looking at stuff that's just not believable. So, as I showed you, this is cracked. You can see it all the way through. It goes right to that rivet. See it right there? Right to the top of the rivet. So apparently this is not new, because on the other side, looky there, the same guy that doesn't know how to weld attempted to repair this side. So my point is, if you don't know how to weld and you've got a cracked frame, you might want to get some help. We've been through all this on the rest of the welds. I won't go crazy with it, but we're going to start making patterns to fix all this stuff. I'll show you how to do that here in just a little while. Bye. Well, once again, plans change. So I've made a management decision, as discussed earlier, with these cracks and holes. This one Mickey Mouse fixed. Got another one back here that is just a hole. Another one back here, just a hole for the bed. Here's what I've decided. I'm going to go ahead and open those holes up a little bit, and I'm going to weld a nut in there. That way I can box the entire frame, cure these cracks. This is just up here playing, but I noticed I can't even trim it up because I've got this garbage to get rid of, and of course I have to remove the old boxing. I think that's, I don't know. I haven't really decided. I could easily box over it, cover up all the garbage, and then be done. I mean, it's not taking away anything. If anything, it adds 5 pounds to a V6 truck, but it does add a little bit of integrity, because if I remove all of this old boxing, what's going to happen to the original frame if it's got some cracks in it? It could literally fold in half. So I think on this side, if you look, I've got it cleaned off and dressed up pretty good. I could go ahead and box this to the front. Like I said, overlapping this. Now it makes it a little more difficult because I have to weld all of this from underneath. But that can be done. And of course the other way is, if you cut this out, you can set your metal in and then you weld the lip. So it's a straight on weld. But neither here nor there. We'll make it happen. This side's the side that really concerns me, and I'll show you why, as if I haven't already. Let's crank you up a little bit here. Going up, 3rd floor. Okay, remove this. Well, that was one way to get rid of that C-clamp. So now you can see the mess. Now, obviously integrity is something that we seriously have to deal with. We've got gobbledygook in here. They actually cut this and put a bolt through to hold the brace for the running board, and it's in the wrong place. We have this garbage from where they welded. We've got an old tube here, which was the actual brake pedal pivot. We've got a crack here. We've got a mess up here. There's another crack here. So, oh, and not forgetting, I don't know if you can see this, but that's about 2 inches of frame that they cut out, which is the front cross member for the leaf spring. So what I'd like to do, once again, oh, there's a number 10 screw that's holding the front of that fender on. and they used it in the same place as the latch, but that really needs to be a little tougher, I think. So we'll change that. Same on the other side. Unbelievable. Anyway, I want to go ahead and weld a nut in there, box this all the way to the front, then I can weld it right to this front cross member again. And I obviously have to do some trimming here because that's a mess. I'm kind of concerned about the structural integrity of this whole cross member. It is straight in the front. I don't know if you can see that. It hasn't been cut. So, I don't know. I'll come up with a plan. I obviously need to readdress this no matter what I do. This is bogus as hell. So I've got to do something there. We will figure it out. I mean, I can grind it flat. I could maybe run a piece of maybe if I cut that flat and welded a piece of round tubing, not tubing, solid, like almost like rebar, only smooth stock, welded it along the rounded part here, would that bring me enough structure in just to add a little bit? He's not going to be driving at 90, but the next guy might. So I want to do something in there to make it better. We'll figure that out. So anyway, back to cutting and grinding and grinding and cutting, and we'll get back with you. Okay, it's outro time. First one, because usually I just say bye. Anyway, don't be afraid of these projects. Whether it's taking a Model A cab off and rebuilding the frame and making everything right, finding old parts that aren't good, things that are boogered up, you can fix it. Just don't be scared of it. If you don't know what you're doing, ask all your friends. Maybe they can help. Find a guy in town. Don't be afraid to walk into a welding shop and say, hey, I've got this da-da-da and I'm not sure how to weld this. Could you give me some tips? Most of us will absolutely gladly do it, because the older we get, the knowledge we have just goes to waste if we don't teach it to somebody that's younger than us. I wish I could find somebody that wanted to learn what I've learned over the years. I wish I could find an apprentice that, like I did when I was 12 or 13, just happened to go by the neighborhood gas station, who was a friend of my dad's, and say, hey, I'd like to learn something. And he said, fine, clean the bathrooms. I'll give you $5 a day. Work cleaning up, sweeping floors and all, and once you do that, then maybe you can talk to the mechanics or fiddle around with some old parts and see how they work. There's nothing wrong with that. Whether it's working with wood, whether it's working with cars, whether it's working on HVACs, whether it's a plumbing thing, whatever interests you, don't be afraid to learn it. It's pretty cool. And us old guys, don't be afraid to ask, because we will gladly give you information. If you ask some old guy and he doesn't want to, well then he's just a prick. Leave him alone. Find somebody else. But anyway, most of the stuff I learned was trial and error, asking questions, or just thinking somebody dumber than me put this together, because that's all they did was put the lug nuts on the side of Fords or Chevrolets or whatever. I surely can take it apart and figure out how to put it back together. So that's my words of wisdom for the day. I hope you all are safe. Have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.